Welcome to the Car Guys. This week, my obsession with the Honda Prelude VTEC. I want to talk to you this week about another one of my unhealthy car obsessions, a 1995 Honda Prelude VTEC. I know what you're thinking. What the hell is he doing buying a Honda Prelude VTEC? Well, I asked myself the same question many times, but this is a result of a long search. I first drove one of these cars in 1995. It was a metallic green one, and I remember at the time being just blown away with how civilized it was and how cool, and it had some features in there that I just thought was just so cool and amazing for the time. Hey presto, random Auto Trader search, as you do. I'm sure you all do it too. You're looking through different cars for your garage, and I came across this one. This is a silver car. It has done, well, right now it's only done 37,000 miles. It had done 34,000 when I actually found it. So it was a low mileage manual 2.2 VTEC Honda Prelude, and this is, I think, the Mk4. It's the swoopy one, as I like to call it, the swoopy Prelude. After this it became all angular. Technologically it was better, but it was angular and to me just wasn't as pretty, and I really like this one. I love the swooping shape. I love the fact that it kind of looks a bit like the same profile as the TDF or a 250 GTO. If you don't believe me, have a look. Things that stood out for me even back then, and it's the same today. I love this. I love the interior of the car. It looks very much like the Honda NSX. Same material, same look, same ruched leather. In some ways it's quite timeless in here. It is a little bit plasticky, but it's very well built. Doesn't really rattle and squeak that much, and considering this is over, well, this is 23 years old, this car. But the things that really stand out, it's rear wheel steering, which is a real technological innovation back then. You imagine, there weren't many road cars that had rear wheel steering. Most people didn't even know what the hell it was. Essentially what it means is that when you're doing, holy shit, that's a big truck. Essentially what it means is that when you're going at low speeds, the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction to the front, and that helps it turn and have a much tighter turning circle. And when you're going at high speed, they turn in the same direction to give you high speed stability. So it's a really cool thing. I have no idea what Honda were thinking putting it into a road car, certainly a medium price road car like this in the 90s. The screaming VTEC engine is another standout of this car. And obviously VTEC is a byword for power and excitement and smoothness. And what's brilliant about the VTEC engine in this car, as it is in most, is that once you get up to around about 4,500 revs, you slam down your foot on the accelerator to overtake, the revs build, you get up to 4,000, and you actually get a noticeable surge, extra surge of power, kind of like having a turbo. And I really like that. One of the standout features of this car in particular, and a reason why I love it, is it has the coolest Star Trek-like digital dashboard. The dashboard stretches across the whole car, and then when you turn on the ignition, all the instruments just suddenly light up and turn on across, just like a starship. It's just so cool, so cool. All the warning lights and everything are there in sort of different coloured lozenges. You've got the fuel, you've got the temperature, you've got the clock, and then obviously you've got the tachometer and the speedo. The only downside is that at night, that's all you can see reflected on the windscreen. This is a 2.2 litre double overhead cam 16 valve engine, so it's a 4-cylinder. It's not the most sexy of engines, I would be first to admit, but it's got a decent pace. Remember, this was up against the sort of hot hatches of the time. 309 GTI and your Golf GTI. and it could hold its own. It's not the fastest thing in the world. 0 to 60 is 6.7 seconds, and it does about 140 miles an hour top speed. Here we go with the VTEC 5006. Here comes the surge, and away we go. It might not be the quickest car today, it certainly isn't, and it wasn't even the quickest car of its day, but it's brisk enough. It's enough to have fun, and it's also enough, oh look at that, it's enough so that you really appreciate the beautiful light steering that this car's got. It's got very delicate steering, this one. It is assisted, but it's a really light, and then as you come into a corner it weights up. It's a lovely steering rack you got on this car. It's 5-speed gearbox. Remember that back in the days when you only had 5 gears in a car? Oh, the great days. It's 4 seats obviously, which is really useful, particularly when you've got lots of 2-seater cars. There's decent enough room there to get 2 fairly small people in the back of the car. Interior wise, it's pretty somber and black in here. It's black on black on black with just 2 little bits of chrome for the door handles. This car from the dealership had the wood pack. In order to apply the wood pack, they take off what is essentially some stickers, some horrible plasticky, not really wood at all transfers that he then sticks by hand onto various parts of the car. So I had to get rid of those immediately. Essentially what I had to do is put a hairdryer on this wood, soften it up, and then peel it off and apply this chemical to soften up all of the glue and everything that was left behind, and then buff it up. So it looks like this. So that had to go, and now it looks like this. As you can see, a massive improvement. Ergonomically, it's a great place to be. You sit in it, it kind of fits like a glove. There's a lot of glass, so you can see out. There's no real blind spots. It's a real pleasure. This model's got the sunroof on it, so an optional sunroof, which is nice on a hot day. Equipment levels aren't staggering, but it does have air conditioning. It's got the sunroof, it's got the radio, and it's got power mirrors and windows. A lot of Honda Preludes have gone through what we like to call the Fast and Furious treatment, which means they've been lowered, they might have neons put on them, they're painted lurid colours, they're chipped, they've got maybe superchargers added to them. It means there's very, very few unmolested Honda Prelude VTECs around. Everyone goes for the VTEC because it gives you that extra power surge, so it's without a doubt the one to have. You don't want the non-VTEC version. But to find a VTEC and a manual and low mileage, that's like hen's teeth. That is pretty hard to find. So you've got to get up early in the morning to find one of those. And actually, as a daily driver, as something to just tool around in when you're not driving a supercar, it's absolutely great. It's a lovely little car. At the time, the advertising for this car was a little bit unnecessarily racy and sexy.
The all-new 1992 Honda Prelude. 4-wheel steering. Airbag safety.
If there's one thing this car isn't, it's racy and sexy, and yet that's how Honda decided they were going to market it to the world.
And a powerful 2.3-litre double overhead cam fuel-injected engine. The all-new 1992 Honda Prelude. It's wild at heart.
Fair play for them for trying, but I wasn't buying it. Obviously it's a Japanese car, so that means the indicators are actually on the right hand side, which if you drive or hop between lots of different cars, that can be a bit of an issue. Very often I think I'll be washing the windscreen, but in fact what I'm doing is flashing the guy in front with full beam headlights. This one's actually specified with cruise control, which of course I will never use. But one thing that Honda VTEC engines love to do, and that's rev. They can't get enough of it. If you're not revving the absolute nuts off these cars, then you are not using them properly as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to take it down some of my favourite little roads, and we're going to see exactly what this car can do 23 years after it was born. down into second, nice smooth gear change. The gear knob falls nicely to hand. Here we go. There was the VTEC. Did you hear the change of tone there? 5, 6, 6.5. Change up. Let's go for an overtake. Fillings don't get jarred out of your teeth as you go over these quite bumpy roads, so it's a very soft, compliant ride, which does mean that there's a little bit of body roll, as we can show you. Here we go. There we go. Quite a bit of body roll. Accelerator does sit perfectly for a little bit of the old heel and toe gear changing. Oh, there we go. Look at that. See? And we are proceeding at a very brisk pace. I've got amazing visibility. I can see all around me. It's light, it's airy. Controls are light, steering's light, pedals, gear change. Everything makes this a very pleasant place to be. And you don't see many of these around. I mean, really, these are rare cars now. Now, I'd like to say that because it's a Japanese car, that it's utterly reliable and nothing's ever gone wrong, but that would be a little bit of a lie, because as good as this car is, it's had 2 issues really. The 4-wheel steering warning light came on, but actually that was rectified relatively quickly. The second thing is that the ABS pump, or master cylinder pump, ABS something, has gone. And the problem that you have is that they don't make those anymore. My only option really for that is to go to a breaker's yard, find an old one of these and rip it out and have it fitted. So the main things I like about this Honda Prelude: rear wheel steering, that's just pretty cool, lovely bit of technology. I love the Star Trek dash, obviously, who wouldn't love that? The howl of the VTEC engine when it hits that VTEC zone is hugely addictive. I like the looks of the actual car itself. I think it is quite a handsome beast. I know not a lot of you are going to agree with that, but I think it's true. I like the fact it's a 4-seater. I like the fact it's smooth, and I like the fact that all the controls are light and manageable. What I don't like about the car, well, the sunroof, the optional sunroof we got here, is susceptible to rust. It's a little bit austere in the cabin here, so obviously I didn't like the ugly plastic wood that it came with. Also, the plastic sort of strips that go along the top of the doors, they get brittle, and I think sometimes birds peck at them, and they fracture, so you end up with this sort of sawtoothed, great white shark mouth looking thing down the side, which is a real pain. But overall, this Honda Prelude is a real joy to own. I love it. Most people hate it. Lots of people look at me with a very strange expression. This car has been called a chav car, for example. I think that's a bit harsh. But a lot of people don't understand it. They don't like it. They wonder what the hell it's doing in the collection. But because of that, I sort of like it even more. See, I particularly like these lovely headlights here, slimline headlights that go round the front of the car to the main badge, and you've got this big long bonnet. It's quite a sleek style that the Prelude has got, but I think the front profile of this car is really cool. It still works even today. Cheeky little spoiler here on the back just to help downforce. No, it doesn't, let's face it, it's just here for show, isn't it? In what way could this ever possibly increase downforce on a Honda Prelude? Perhaps the only slightly naff detail on the Honda Prelude is these big rear lights, these big hamburgers shoved right on the back. Otherwise it's quite a nice profile. If we look from the side, you can sort of see it's actually a really cool looking shape. You've got this high back and then over to the windscreen, and then it sweeps down to the front. So it's quite a nice classic, sort of classic GT shape. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the Honda Prelude VTEC. Don't say we don't give you something weird and quirky every now and again. Please subscribe, leave comments and likes if you like what we're doing. We do read all the comments, so please send them along, and they help us make even better videos. So there'll be more on the way soon.